Hi, from my screen to yours, my name is Sammy. If you have some time on your hands and you're looking for a good drama to binge, I got you covered. I'll be sharing a list of some of the dramas that I've watched over the years that I think are the most bingeable. And I will say that most of these dramas are in the thriller genre, but with other subgenres, I think the genre itself just lends itself to being very bingeable. There's a lot of suspense and mystery that keeps you on your toes and curious to find out what happens. Also, I will be sharing these just in the order of how many episodes that they have, but let's get started. First one is Alice in Borderland, specifically season 1. When this first came out in, I forget what year, a few years ago, it was more of a fresher concept, the idea of playing these games for survival or else getting killed. This did come out before the first season of Squid Game, which I feel like really propelled that concept and made it more mainstream, even though obviously there was a lot of media even before this that had this idea. I really enjoy this because I've always liked that concept anyways, even though I don't think I've seen that many shows about it. Obviously, it creates for a lot of tense scenarios with the characters. I really like Alice in Borderland because the games are very complex and it requires the characters to build strategy, work with other people, or at times have to betray others in order to survive and win. Like if I was playing the games, I would be gone in the first round for sure. But that's why I enjoy watching it, see how they can work themselves out of it and become the winners. And I also think the cast of characters is very interesting. The leads are good, but also the supporting characters, there's just some really charismatic supporting characters involved, which make it a lot of fun to watch. I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons. The third and final season, which came out recently a few months ago, was not bad, but I definitely think it wasn't as good, but it's still worth a watch. Next one, just to connect with that, and because it has 9 episodes, is the first season of Squid Game, which I'm sure everyone who wanted to watch it has probably already watched it by now. I won't get that much into it, but I wanted to include it just because I remember I first watched the first season of Squid Game when it first got released, again because the idea sounded like something that I would enjoy watching, and I think I watched the entire season in one sitting, which sometimes it just be like that because that was how like gripping the story was. That obviously was true for a lot of people considering how popular it became, and we all know how it kind of fell off in the next 2 seasons. It was really good at the time, or it is really good, but only the first season, although I did hate the ending. Next up, probably the most recent show on my list, I think, is the Kdrama Dear Ex. Very briefly, this is about our female lead who is a sociopath. She grew up with a pretty traumatic childhood, and because of that, she is basically manipulating everyone around her and the situations in order to get what she wants. I put this because, well, first of all, it's not that long, but especially in the first half, it was very suspenseful. The story was moving quickly, and the lead performance in particular was very captivating. And so I personally did not binge it because I watched it weekly as it came out. But if it had been all out at the time, I definitely would have binged it because the story just progresses quickly. It goes from her in high school to her finding success and the trouble that comes with that as an adult. So I think there's always something going on. I won't touch on the ending. Yeah, the ending is weird, but I still think overall I enjoyed watching the show, and it is worth watching because the story is very different from a lot of K-dramas or just dramas in general, and it's based off a webtoon. Honestly, just for Kim Yoo-jung's performance, I think it's worth checking out. Next, another Korean thriller is The King of Pigs, and to be honest, I don't remember that much about it because I watched this many years ago whenever it first came out. This one is about these 2 adults in present day who suddenly are contacted by a friend that they haven't heard from since they were kids, and it shows both them as adults and flashbacks to their childhood and kind of what mysterious things were happening. You may know that I like to watch a lot of thrillers, particularly Korean Korean thriller dramas because I think they're really good at them. I just remember that while I was watching this, it stood out to me and that I really enjoyed watching it. So if you're into that genre as well, then I think you should check it out. Next one is Kingdom, and this is 2 seasons, both 6 episodes each, and it's on Netflix. It's a unique take on the overdone zombie genre. Spin on it is that there's a zombie outbreak that takes place in historical Korea. I just think the time period makes it very interesting because obviously the differences in technology that they had back then and how people could fight off this outbreak, this phenomena happening with the tools that they had back in the day. It was very interesting, as well as the performances. I remember this was very suspenseful, and season 1 ended off at such a great, I think it was like a cliffhanger or reveal situation, which you won't have to wait for because it's long done now. Yeah, that really stuck out in my mind at the time when I watched it, and I was like, I can't wait for the next season. Yeah, I think this is a very quality show. I think it's also something that even people that don't typically watch K-dramas can enjoy. Next is a C-drama, which is a recent one, Mobius. It's a time travel, fantasy, crime, thriller with some romance. It has a bit of everything. Basically follows our male lead who has this Groundhog Day type ability of time travel where he can relive certain days. The show is basically him reliving this certain day to try and figure out this crime that's involving this big biotech something like that corporation. I was initially kind of skeptical if I would enjoy it because I think a lot of that type of time travel can get kind of tedious or boring with you seeing the same day repeat, but each day does not feel like the same day. It honestly feels like you're watching different days most of the time because the lead character keeps finding out new things about different characters and seeing different situations play out. I think because of that, it would be a very entertaining watch. I do think the first episode, at least for me, wasn't that captivating, and I had friends that said they started it but they weren't like that on board, and I told them that they kind of have to push through because it does get very interesting and a lot of people have really complimented this show. I just didn't think the first episode was that interesting, but yeah, just push through if it sounds interesting. Next, back to Korean dramas. This one is The Crowned Clown from a few years ago. This one is 16 episodes, so the typical K-drama length from back in the day. I know nowadays they're all really short. This one is a historical drama thriller about this king who is being threatened, and so he needs a double who is this clown character, and obviously they're both played by the same actor, Yeo Jin-gu, who is really good in the performance. The king is very like serious and ruthless, which he sells, but at the same time when he's the clown that's more like humble and normal and like good, you know? I watched this a while ago. Like you really believe that he's these two different people that just look basically the same. I just remember the story being really good, the acting being really good, and my parents watched it because it played on TV with Chinese dub, and they also really enjoyed it. So I think this one's worth a watch if it sounds interesting. Second to last, which is probably my favorite show on this entire list, is Girl from Nowhere. I have talked about this I think once before on my channel. It's a Thai show on Netflix following our main female character who is sort of this mysterious entity, but she goes to different schools and, how do I say, exposes different people's lies and corrupt misconduct and other actions that they're involved with. And it is an anthology series, so each episode she's basically at a different school with different supporting characters, different story. I think each story was very interesting. Some can be disturbing. The main actress is such perfect casting for this role. I think she was so just mesmerizing to watch on screen. She's a big reason why I love this show so much, and it's just a very unique show that's dark but also just very interesting. It just shows a lot about human nature with these things that these people are doing. I just think it's an amazing show and it's definitely worth a watch. And last one that I'm gonna pick is the romance C-drama Love in the Clouds from last year. So I think the romance genre is very bingeable, but it's hard to recommend specific romance dramas because I feel like it's very personal what romance dramas you like. Everyone ships different couples or feels like different couples have different chemistry or certain storylines speak to you and others don't. And obviously that applies to all genres, but I feel like with romance specifically. But once you get that really good couple that you love, I definitely definitely think romance may be one of the most, if not the most, bingeable genres. So I had to include one because I think Love in the Clouds, despite it being pretty long as most C-dramas are, there's a lot of other things going on, which a lot of other romance dramas do as well. But with the fantastical elements going on, that makes it very interesting to watch besides just the developing romance, but also because the romance does develop very quickly. So sometimes it's good to watch that slow development, that slow burn, but sometimes it's also a lot of fun to see them just flirting from the start, and that's what this couple does. And then it gets spicy, which I talked about before. Yeah, I think this is a great one to recommend, and it definitely has binge potential. I binged it pretty much except near the end when I had to wait for it to come out every day. Yeah, these were all the dramas that I've watched over the years that I found to be the most bingeable. I would love to know what dramas you think are bingeable. What have you binged? What are you binging right now, maybe? Thank you so much for watching. I'd love if you subscribe to join my small drama community, and I'll see you in my next video.